All right. Thank you, Jesse.
No problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jesse Moorfield, our technical staff who's hooking me up on the video recording. Thank you, Jesse. All right, students. So this has been a crazy week. I'm sure a lot of you have been traveling and you've been through some hardships. I know some of my TAs had to travel very far to get to a safe place, and then turned out, at least where I was, that it rained, but that was about it. We got a little bit of wind, but we were okay. I think I'll tell you in the email, I have a tour coming up where I'm going to be away for a week, so that's why I've been trying to make sure that you had all the information that you need. I'll send that in the email, the details of that, and the details of when the exam will be. We'll have to postpone it one class day, but I'll send that in the email. Today I want to give you a very brief Cliff Notes version of class, but I did want to play and demonstrate a few things for you, particularly with this topic because it's about stride piano. And I am not able to play the Ken Burns videos. YouTube will take them down immediately, even if it's a little portion of it. So what I'll do is go through the slides and then give you, I'll tell you, which videos you're going to watch, and I'll put that in the email. I'll send a link where you can pause and watch the video. And I would go in order like we would in class. So when we get to Fats Waller, you should pause and watch the video on Fats Waller. Today we're going to talk about Harlem stride. Basically, well, and actually before we do that, let me go ahead and go here. Some of you have asked about what the exam will be like in terms of the listening. I will not play them from the beginning of the track as I have to here, but this is what the exam questions will look like. You'll have an answer bank here that you'll choose from. You need to know the main artist, and you also need to be able to listen and identify it. I'm not going to ask you to pick out 2-beat or walking or anything like that, but just the tune. So the tune title and the main artist. Remember to go into Sakai and download. There's a few tracks that aren't on Spotify, so you're going to need to do that. But here's what it'll be like. I'll play a little segment. I'll give you a little longer for that, but just to keep the file size short. So that would be number one. You'd pencil in on your bubble sheet. And then here's number 2. Okay, and here's number 3. And so on. We'll play about 30 to 40 seconds of this in class. So I actually have to remind myself here. Okay? So you would then have to answer. Number 1, you know which one it was? Actually, I think I'll let you figure this out. And then number 2 and number 3. What will also help you on the exam is to play the tracks that have similar instrumentation back to back. That's what trips people up the most. So the small bands where there's a front line of horns, you want to play those tracks right back to back over and over and make sure you can tell the difference between those. That'll be the most tricky thing. And then all the tracks that are just solo piano, play those back to back and make sure you can distinguish between them. Okay? All right. So let me just cut to the chase and give you the quick version of this. So all that stuff we talked about with ragtime and march music, that's going to filter into the New Orleans style. I recorded the slides, and I didn't do this presentation. and sent that to you. So make sure you watch that. I will get as much done on Wednesday in class, so I hope everyone's there, and we'll cover some of that. But what happens is this boom chuck left hand, basically it's like this. I don't know if you can see me now or not, but I don't think you can. What happens is the bass is striking beats 1 and 3, just like in march music, and then in the middle register, the left hand moves like this, back and forth, and in the middle register, on the back beat, on beats 2 and 4, it plays the chord. Okay? So again, it sounds like this. And that kind of thing. Okay? It's the same technique used over and over from ragtime to early New Orleans, and then as it moves up to Harlem, it becomes known as the Harlem Stride. Okay, from up in New York. And we get into the late 1920s, and we're going to meet some artists who take this same concept and just it becomes more and more advanced. They improvise more. It's not ragtime where it's all written. In fact, it's not written down most of the time. Okay? Willie the Lion would say these words, "What's the matter? Are you crippled? Where did you break your left arm?" Which means this. It's all about the left hand, and that is an exam question. I will ask you about that. What it means is for stride pianists, the left hand is the most important thing because there's no band with them usually. Now, actually, you'll see some Fats Waller slides where there is a rhythm section. But most of the time, they would play solo piano. And I'll show you some examples, and I'll play you some examples here in a minute. I'm not going to take time to play this, just to keep things short. But again, we saw Jelly Roll or Scott Joplin, and then that same kind of left-hand technique continued on into Jelly Roll Morton's playing that we already saw. And just to remind you, we're in the foxtrot years with the 2-beat and the bass, where you have something striking on beats 1 and 3 down to the low range, okay? So that's where we are. That's the groove of the time. Don't worry about that. Here's what I'd like you to know. Here's what it looks like. So this is the measure, okay? And here's the beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and the left hand is going to play the root. The root is the bottom note of the chord. It's going to go root, and then the thing about it is the left hand plays all of this part. The left hand plays the root, chord, fifth, chord, and the fifth means this. So here's the root, the bottom note of the chord. Remember we said we go up by thirds. 1, the space would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So root, chord, fifth, chord, root, chord, fifth, chord. That's how this works. And it sounds like this. Actually, I added a few things. Now, there's some other ways to get it more sophisticated. You can also invert the chord. Now, I'm not going to ask you all this on the exam. But I really would like you to know this right here. You can pause the video, fortunately, and I don't have to slow down. You can, if you didn't get that down. And again, just know this generally about what happens with that left hand. Okay. But the other things that stride pianists would do is sometimes just play inversion. So like, which means they would take this chord, and then this note moves up here. And it would be what we call inverted. It's the same chord here, but they put that up top. Then they take the same chord and invert that note up here. And so they just invert it. So you're just playing the same chord in different positions. And that's another way to keep the pulse. So. Okay, that's another thing they did. And so on and so on. Let me play for you a little example by the great Fats Waller called Ain't Misbehavin'. that's an example of kind of a medium tempo stride. And one thing I do want to point out, I'm not going to ask you this for the exam in this kind of detail, but for those of you who are interested, and I think there's a number of you in the class who want to know some of the details. So one way is to go root, chord, fifth, chord. Another one was to do the inversions, root, inversion, and that keeps the beat, okay? And then another one was to go root, chord, and then do a passing chord. So it sounds like this. That's the passing chord. Passing chord. So you can add chords in between the main chords that you're going to, and then it gets really rich. I do want to make mention that stride was a solo piano thing again. I mentioned that, but I just want to make strong emphasis of this and talk about the people involved. So there were the original three main artists, and that was James P. Johnson. He is the father of Harlem Stride. I'll show you some slides on this here in a minute. He's the one that really took what Jelly Roll was doing, and Jelly Roll was drawing on Scott Joplin, and kind of fashioned it into a more improvisatory style, specifically for solo piano. And then Willie the Lion is another great artist. Fats Waller is going to be our clown, our funny one that the public knows more than any of them. Wrote a lot of songs. And then, these are the main three. Then there's a younger artist who's from Toledo, Ohio, and his name is Art Tatum, someone very special to me, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. Okay, so here's the father of Harlem Stride. Let's see if this video will pop up here.
Race had been a cinch. I tried to find out who it was, lady, but I couldn't find out. Nobody'd ever tell you whoever it was, but... Oh, well. Now to get... Hey!
Ah, that's a little girl.
The judges will remain on the floor. Let's go!